You see that? That's a super sack of fertilizer. I got about 1,400 pounds of fertilizer and I'm going to put on a small field over in Macedonia, over near Monk's Corner. Going to do that. I planted that a little later. I water seeded it. That stand is coming up really nice. And I got to get that sprayer hooked up to the truck so I can tow it over to Monk's Corner.
Y'all know what time it is. Let's get it.
What's up, YouTube? Doing a little impromptu video. You see that big cloud right there? Rain. Just like I predicted. Whenever June 30th, July 1st-ish gets around, it's like you flip a switch. We've had dry, hot weather. I'm talking about earth-cracking dry weather. And now it is raining like every day. Now I'm having to work in between rain clouds and stuff. Carbon copy of the last 2 years. I'm telling you right now, next year, I will water seed all of my rice. I will be hard pressed to use a grain drill next year, only because rice will germinate through water or soil, but not both. So let me show you an example of what happened this year. See all that? You shouldn't be seeing all that water. It should look like this, not like that. The whole place should have rice seedlings stacked, one right behind the other. What happened this year was exactly what happened to me last year. I was late getting it in because of adverse weather conditions in April. It slowed me down. I had to go back and redo some things, double work some things, got the soil finally ready, everything back right, sowed the rice. We didn't have any rain for, a few weeks after a major rain event that caused me a lot of problems, and the soil got nice and dried out. The problem was I went ahead and planted between April 27th and May 3rd or 2nd, and we continued to not get any rain. So let me explain to you the scenario. Rice gets planted late in dry soil, expecting rain like all farmers do. Then we continue to not get any rain. I get very sporadic germination. About 90% of the rice had not germinated. Then we got a ton of rain, which flooded these clay fields. You think, well, it was dry, it should have soaked it up. No, these fields are clay. It's like a gray clay. Some places it's red clay, but it's clay. And it does not matter if you don't get any rain for a long time. A bunch of rain all at once will just sit there. It doesn't matter. So I got all this rain, which flooded the seed that was planted in the soil. Remember what I said about rice will emerge through water and soil, but not both. So I had seed in the soil, got flooded, already had sporadic germination. So my seedlings, basically what they did is they sprouted and then they died in the soil. The field stayed flooded in certain areas. We had trouble getting the water off. And so when I saw this type stuff, I called the insurance people. I'm not dealing with it. It's just, you can't make it not happen. You know, I mean, you can't like get in a time machine and go backwards. One thing I can say is that with this, the plants more spread apart, there is a science that says, you know, if you spread your plants further apart, that your plant will flourish better and you will get more, a higher yield from what is there. So you know, I don't know. You can call it a silver lining if you want to. I still think it stinks, but whatever. I like to see a nice, pretty full field. But that's what we're dealing with. That's farming, folks. Stuff like that happens. However, next year, I almost water seeded this, by the way. I came within a hair's width of water seeding it, and someone told me they tried it and it didn't work very well. And so I decided to go with the grain drill. And this is what I'm looking at. I have water seeded rice before. Let me stop and explain what water seeding is. Somebody might not understand. Okay, basically you flood the field. You, right before, if you can flood the field quickly, you broadcast spread the seed on the soil and then flood it quickly. Or you go ahead and put water on the field, you flood it, give it a certain amount of time, and then draw the water off, and the rice seedlings have rooted in the bottom in the mud. You go ahead and dry the field down, the rice will continue to grow, and you'll have rice. One thing about it is, like, okay, let's say we flood this in early April. So regardless of a drought, regardless of rain, anything, we can flood these fields. So I'm not worried about it. Drought, rain, doesn't matter. I can flood these fields. That takes that out of the equation. That takes all that stress off of my back. We can flood the fields and put seed in the water. Bottom line, weather can do what it wants to do. We know we can take that variable out of the equation. Secondly, it holds the weeds down. The flood does. And third, you stand a lot better chance. See, remember that rain event I told you about that kind of threw me for a loop and I had to kind of recover the fields and it caused me to plant late? Well, you stand a much stronger chance of being able to get the fields dried out in May. So if you go ahead and flood the fields early and get planted early, you increase your odds for a higher yield because it's always better to plant early. You also have a much stronger chance of being able to manipulate the fields and dry them out in May. See, the last 3 years, we've had a very dry May. Very hot, very dry May. So, if I had flooded these fields in early April, water seeded these fields, then drained them all off, you know, a week or so later, and then let's let the field naturally dry out, come May, this field would have been nice and dry. The roots would have been down in the soil. Rice would have been growing. We could have sprayed, done everything we needed to do. One thing about it is, with some work, regardless of what's going on, we can get these fields dry enough to work them. You know, even with a moderate amount of rain. So, let me share a little something with you. Okay, people say, oh, water's bad. You're going to bog down if you drive out here. No, let me explain something to you. If this field is really like wet with no water on it, the clay will stick to your tires and it will stick in your cleats of your tires. And then once that happens, you bog down because you have no traction. If you're driving in this water, the water sloshing on your tires creates a slickness on the rubber that will not let the clay stick. So as long as you keep moving forward and you got a reasonable amount of traction, you can drive right through this and while with water in the field and not bog down. Matter of fact, you'll bog down worse if you drain it off and the clay is not dry. So clay needs to be dry or wet, but not in between because it turns into peanut butter and it sticks to your tires. Sorry for the wind noise today, folks. Of course, the wind wants to blow, whatever. So over here, you know, you see all that, the field kind of stops. Field kind of stops right in here. And it goes around over there. And that's deep. That's not rice out there, that's maiden cane. But the field goes, you know, down and then it just stops. We quit planting because it gets too deep. And hey, there's my combine way over there. There it is. Hey, combine. Anyway, I just wanted to show y'all a little something about what's going on with me this year. Look at that. See all that? That's a maiden cane. Hit that with a high dose of stam. Maiden cane's on its way out. So the rice will emerge up through all that junk. Maiden cane's working on trying to stay alive and it won't. Which means it's not sucking up nitrogen, which means the nitrogen is going to my rice. So the rice will emerge up through all that, and in a few more weeks, then that will be no more. You won't even see it. And check it out. You want to know why I wear Crocs to work? There you go. Crocs and ankle socks. If I was wearing knee boots, I'd be wet up to here. I'd have water sloshed all over me. If I slip down, fall in the water, now I'm wet. Step in a hole, step off the edge of a ditch, now I'm wet. It just ain't worth it. Crocs and ankle socks. All right, so I want to share something that happened to me a while back that y'all need to know about. I was driving this tractor, pulling that sprayer. See over there where the truck is? Can you see a ditch? You're riding along, no ditch. I'm driving along about third gear, and I look back at the tank to see how much I had left in the tank, right? Because I needed to get over to this other field over there. And so I'm looking back briefly just to see how much I got in the tank. And this was before we flooded and everything. And I am looking at grass. Okay, look back at the tank. When I turn my head back around, there we go. There's a ditch, and that was dug with a backhoe. So there's no sloping edge. It's just straight down. So I went down in the ditch. That's not the bad part, because the ditch is really not that deep. It's just got straight down sides. One of my wheels, it was a little soft in the bottom. It was all dried out, a little soft in the bottom. One wheel started to dip a little bit. So I go get my spare tire, and I'm going to jack up the front of the tractor. I'll show you real quick. I was jacking up this side right here to get that spare tire underneath this tire to give it a little lift, and I knew I could get out. Here's what I did. I did something very wrong. I had to farm jack. I was using one of those click clack, you know, the old farm jacks. Had it jacked up, and I took my hand and I pushed the handle down. Okay, and I heard it click. I pushed it all the way down. I heard it click. That's a no-no. I looked forward to look at something down in here, and when I did, that mechanism unclicked, and the weight of this tractor was pushing down on it, and that handle hit me right behind the ear, right on that bone, right behind my ear, right here. It hit me so hard, it knocked me forward. It knocked me forward in the ditch, and I didn't know if I was conscious or not. I had to stop and like think for a second. Am I awake, or am I knocked out? It's 100 degrees out here. If I get knocked out, I'm laying out here in the hot sun with no protection. And the complication that I got afterwards was that the swelling back here closed up my sinus, you know, like your eustachian tubes and all that drains your ear, and I ended up getting an ear infection because of it. Everything's good to go now. It's getting better, but that could have been a lot worse than what happened. It hit me on the side of the head, in the face. I thought it hit my jaw because it hit me flat along the back of the jaw, but it hit that bone primarily, the skull, the base of my skull right here. If it had hit me in the jaw, it would have broke my jaw. It have broke my jaw. I actually started spitting because I thought I was going to be spitting out blood. I wasn't sure exactly where I got hit. I was still numb. So the lesson that I want to put in this YouTube video is that never ever turn your back on one of those farm jacks. And never ever let go of that handle. I don't care if it feels like there's tension on it or not. Make sure that handle is standing in an upright position before you do anything else, because someone else could come walking along and poke their head down in there and get whacked by it. Those jacks are very dangerous. They're very strong and they're very versatile. You can use them for a lot of different things besides jacking up a piece of equipment, but they are very dangerous. So be very careful with one of those. I don't want anyone to go through what I went through that day. I had a huge goose egg on the back of my head, and the ear infection that followed was no fun either. It was pretty gross. So anyway, that's that.